I made the decision because we know that 99% of soldiers who were recognised under this unit citation have done the right thing. They've served with honour, they've acted in our country's best interests, and they've done the job that they were asked to do. So we want to make sure before Anzac Day these officers and their families can recognise them through the wearing of the medal and sending a very clear message that we support the vast majority of people who have done exactly the right thing.
Will these citations be reinstated immediately?
Yes, and there's obviously a consequence for those people that have done the wrong thing. So the 1% of people who have a case to answer or allegations to answer, those issues will be dealt with. And if there's a conviction or there's a finding of inappropriate behaviour, then they will lose their citation. And that would be a very heavy consequence for them, but that would be as a result of their own actions. What we know is that the vast majority of people have done the right thing and they deserve recognition through this citation.
Because of the nature of the war in Afghanistan, the difficulty in gathering evidence is obvious. Do you accept that there might never be any convictions here?
Well, Laura, that's an issue now for the Office of Special Investigators, so that's a process that we've set up. It's got a retired judge in charge. There will be up to 75 investigators in the Office of the Special Investigator, and their task is to look objectively at all of the evidence. And as I say, we operate by the rule of law. If people have broken the law, if they're found to have been guilty of that, then again, there's a heavy price to pay. But we should presume innocence before guilt, and we should look at all of the facts in relation to individual cases, and people will pay a price if there's a price to be paid for their actions.
Well, what's happened here then? Was there an overreaction to the Brereton Report?
I think a lot of people rightly were very shocked, and I've gone through and read the report, and there are some shocking allegations, and the initial reaction was one that was made. My sense is, looking at all of the facts as they now stand, the appropriate decision is to make sure that we recognise the vast majority, and 3,000 people who received this recognition have done the right thing, and the handful of people that might be convicted or might be found guilty through another process, or more or less than that, whatever the number is, that shouldn't taint the exceptional work of those soldiers. And bearing in mind that there are some soldiers who lost their lives as a result of their actions in our country's name, there was the potential coming into this Anzac Day that their families wouldn't be able to wear that medal, and to me that was unacceptable, and we've rectified that. And the concentration now, for me, and I've said this on a number of occasions, but I really want to repeat this message, Anzac Day, yes, is about commemorating the amazing legacy of the original Anzacs, but this Anzac Day, for me, and I hope for many Australians, will be about recognising the efforts of almost 40,000 Australians who have fought in Afghanistan and Iraq, who make our generation incredibly proud, and I think have stopped a terrorist attack from taking place, many terrorist attacks from taking place around the world. Their work has been incredibly important, and as we withdraw now from that theatre, we recognise that incredible effort. 40,000 people have made an incredible sacrifice, and their families as well. And that's what this Anzac Day should be about.
Well, this is your first big decision as Defence Minister. Are you, I guess, alive to at least the optics of this being seen to be undermining the Chief of Defence?
No, not at all. And again, I've known Angus Campbell for many years. I worked with him in Operation Sovereign Borders, and I have no higher respect for any other person than I do for Angus Campbell. I think he's served his country with great distinction, continues to do so. He completely understands the decision that I've made, and as I say, he made a decision at a different point in time based on the facts then. I can look at all of the facts now, and this is the decision I think is right, that is right for our country and for our servicemen and women, and it sends a very clear message that we're not going to tolerate behaviour that is outside the rule of law, but equally we aren't going to taint those that haven't done anything wrong, those people that have excelled in their profession. Those members of the regiment are respected around the world. These are first-class human beings. They are people that are skilled and trained beyond the understanding of most Australians, and they do things that keep us safe day and night. Most Australians would never know about the work that the SAS and our other soldiers and people from the other services do. And I just, I was up in Laverack the other day speaking to soldiers up there. I just, as I'm speaking to them and hearing their stories, you just couldn't believe that their parents could be any prouder than what they are of who those young people are. And I share their pride.
So you've spoken to Angus Campbell. Is he now on board with the reversal of this decision?
Yes, he is, yeah, of course. I've consulted widely, and the Prime Minister very strongly supports this position. He's strongly of the same view as I am, and I've spoken with General Campbell and others, and I've arrived at this decision having taken all of that into consideration.
Minister Dutton, this was a very emotional time when the Brereton Report was handed down, and we were warned that it would be some very difficult reading. Again, the CDF seemed to isolate some of those in his own ranks. Do you think his position going forward is tenable, given that some in the Defence Force are upset with the way he handled it and the stripping of those citations in the first place?
I can assure you that his position is not only tenable, it's rock solid. As I say, I have the utmost respect for Angus Campbell. I've watched him perform as a leader over a number of years around the table of the National Security Committee. I've seen him present, I've seen him talk passionately about his personnel, about the desire to get the right investment to support the personnel, and I just don't think there's a more patriotic, honourable Australian, and he absolutely has the support of the Prime Minister, myself, and the whole government. He does an exceptional job, and he works with the other service chiefs to keep us safe, and we really do honour that.
Indeed. Now, finally, you would be also alive to the view of, in your government, and a little bit wider than that as well, that there needs to be a Royal Commission into veteran suicide. Is that something that you want to see, something that you support?
Yes, very much so, but also support the Prime Minister's position as well in relation to an ongoing arrangement, Laura. I think sometimes with Royal Commissions you have sort of a snapshot in time of consideration of a particular issue, and I think that's important, and there are many within the veterans community that support that. But it's also important that if there is a suicide in 2 or 5 years' time, that there's the ability for that family to get a better understanding, a deeper understanding, particularly if there is some ambiguity around the circumstances or contributing factors that people just didn't quite understand, that is heard. And the Prime Minister's been strongly supportive of both the Royal Commission and that ongoing process. So we'll have something to say about that very soon, but that's that I think is the best approach, and that provides for as many people. We don't want to see our veterans self-harming, obviously. We don't want to see their families suffering. We want to provide whatever support we can, and the way in which the government has invested in programs and in interventions and other ways in which we can help veterans has been quite remarkable over recent times, but there's still more for us to do, and I want the veterans to hear very clearly, particularly those that have come back from the Middle East over the course of the last few years. This government does have their back, that we do want to provide support, and if there is a wrong that's taken place, if there's ways in which we can rectify people's individual circumstances, then we will do whatever is humanly possible to help those people.
Minister, that is big news, and this is something that many in the defence community has been calling on for some time. So just to be really clear on this, your government is now looking at a Royal Commission.
And the Prime Minister's been very clear about that too, Laura. So
well, he has spoken to now about a commission of an inquiry. A Royal Commission is something that at least the veterans community has said is different. So are we giving hope now that it is a Royal Commission?
Well, I think that I don't want to differ with you, but I think the Prime Minister has been clear about his support of a Royal Commission, but the ongoing arrangement as well. And you're right. I mean, that there are many within the veteran community that support a Royal Commission. There are others that don't, and that's as you would expect, because we're talking about a large community and people have different experiences. I also want it to be an opportunity, and you get this from soldiers as you move around, from defence personnel as you move around. They also want us to talk about the positive. There are some incredible stories of people that have separated from their time in the Defence Force, have gone on to achieve incredible things in their life in the private sector, in government, etc. So we want to talk about those successes as well, because the skill set that people gain within the Defence Force is respected across society, and we need to really recognise that positive in the same breath.
Absolutely. With the 500 soldiers that have taken their lives, at least since the Afghanistan war, which has been ongoing really and will be ongoing till the end of this year, when do you think, you said the Prime Minister and you will have more to say on this Royal Commission in coming weeks, when can we expect some kind of announcement?
Well, as much as I want to give a scoop to your program, Laura, I think we'll wait for the announcement, and that will be an issue for the Prime Minister. So,
okay.
But it'll speak to the government's genuine desire to support our troops, and I think that's important.
Yep. Okay. You can't blame us for trying. Now, it's 20 years. America essentially last week ended the West's involvement, which includes probably Australia's involvement too in Afghanistan. We've seen many lives lost. Almost the forgotten war. What is our legacy there? What have we left?
Well, first and foremost, we remember the 41 soldiers and defence personnel who lost their lives. We recognise also the other coalition forces who lost personnel in that battle, and as you say, a 2-decade battle, but an incredibly important one. We should never, ever forget the tragedy of 9/11. I was in the United States in New York when only a few months after the tragedy in that September, and the feeling was palpable, the smell was still in the air, and it really left a mark on generations. So what has happened over the course of the last 20 years? Well, there are countless terrorist attacks that I think would have otherwise taken place, but for the involvement of the Australian defence personnel and our coalition partners in Afghanistan and Iraq. There are people that would have been slaughtered at the hands of dictators and warlords had our people not been in place. We've seen the dramatic events of places like Somalia in the not too distant history of that part of the world, and I believe that we have contributed to a stabilisation in the region. But had that not been the case, we would have seen the repercussions in the West. And so there are many, many fine legacies that the 39,000 troops should be incredibly proud of. But we have paid a high price, not as high as some other countries, but for those families, the 41 and their loved ones, it's been a tragedy that they will never recover from. Let's be very frank about it. And as a country, we need to say thank you. We need to pay respect to their loss, and we need to provide support to their mates and those within those units that would still be carrying the scars of that today. So there's a long tail in any of these battles, and all of us have a job to do to make sure that we support those people, but also to recognise the positive that came from our contribution. Young girls being educated in a world where they weren't able to go to school before. There are many positives that we can take from our contribution.